I have a pretty easy job this afternoon, as it's my task to give you some of the reasons why both primary and secondary school children should study philosophy, both as a subject in its own right and also by drawing out the philosophical implications of other core subjects such as the sciences and history. As you all know, Aristotle says that philosophy, the love of wisdom, begins with a sense of wonder. And philosophy, I think, taps into children's natural curiosity and imaginations and intellectual zest. And indeed, a comparative lack of self-consciousness about asking the big questions. So hear that, guys, when it's your turn, just go for it. So the big question, so what really exists? How do we know that it exists? How do we know that we know? What is it to live a good human life? And is it the good people who get to live a good life, or the bad people? And how can we best live together? And the fact that philosophy quite often uses riddles and paradoxes just adds to the fun. So you cannot step into the same river twice. The moving arrow is motionless. I always lie. So am I lying now? It's sometimes said that, particularly in primary school education, the focus should be on the acquisition of facts and knowledge. But of course, even defining what is to count as knowledge or a fact, these are philosophical questions. So I put it to you that philosophy is not some kind of luxury to be indulged in by the lucky few in some kind of intellectual finishing school. It is the foundational subject, and it is also at the core of all other subjects, whether in the humanities, the sciences, or the social sciences. And children really can grasp these big intellectual questions. I've just been impressed again and again when I've seen the work of the Philosophy Foundation and other organisations in this area. And I remember that when my own daughter was 7, and I have asked her permission to tell this story today, when she was 7, she had to come and hear me give a lecture at Warwick University, where I then worked, and because childcare had gone wrong over half term. So there she was with all her colouring books, and I was lecturing on a Greek philosopher called Parmenides, who argues that you can't think nothing, and that gets into a debate about whether nothing exists. And I started off the lecture by writing on the board, nothing exists and nothing does not exist. And I got the students to discuss those. And then I went and put inverted commas around the word nothing in each sentence and asked the students if that made a difference. And this 7-year-old, my daughter, was sort of watching me with a beady eye as this was going on, not colouring. Anyway, later that evening, I heard her on the phone gleefully telling somebody that she now knew what her mum did for a living, that I discussed nothing all day long. And she's never let me forget that. But, and here's the point, a few years later, when she got to secondary school and got really into maths and physics, which are her big things, she got really interested in the question about whether black holes can be said to exist. And she admits, reluctantly, but she does admit that she has remembered that lecture on Parmenides. So never underestimate what really quite young children can understand. Now, asking these foundational basic questions, I think, is absolutely vital to help children understand that there are other ways of living, being, and thinking, and that it helps children extend their imaginative range of possible lives beyond the postcode into which they're born. And that is equally true whether they come from a very wealthy or a less wealthy background. Philosophy can help extend that range of possible ways of living. Absolutely crucial. Therefore, philosophy can give some content to David Cameron's recent call that children should raise their aspirations. It can give content to that call. It can help respond to the CBI's recent call that there should be more initiative and independent thinking in school leavers. Philosophy is one of the things that can fit the bill. So in terms of content, philosophy, absolutely crucial. But also, of course, in terms of methods. Because obviously, the kind of training in conceptual analysis, the ability to construct and analyze a deductive and an inductive argument, these are skills that will help children in any career that they go on to have. And the fact that philosophy is quite often conducted, often best conducted in dialogue, in debate, means that children can learn through philosophical debate to acquire skills in both talking and also listening, which again are absolutely vital. And children can learn that you can disagree with somebody really quite robustly without actually having to shout or worse, or you know. I have to admit that not every professional philosopher in history has refrained from shouting or even hitting. Didn't Wittgenstein once biff Popper with a poker? Have I got that the right way round? But clearly, do not try this at home. That is not necessary. It is not the ideal. The ideal is that you can have a really robust exchange of views and explore tough topics, but not take things personally. And again, this training in asking for reasons for belief. Why should I believe that? That kind of training and asking for reasons for a belief, I think, is absolutely vital to help protect children against various kinds of indoctrination, whether from advertisers, whether from web bullies, from various forms of religious or political extremist groups. Why should I believe what you are telling me to believe? So, philosophy, I think, it helps build aspiration, it builds confidence, it extends the range of possible lives available to a child's imagination. It helps engage girls with maths and science, it helps engage boys with words. So as Aristotle nearly but sadly didn't quite say, what's not to like? Thank you.